he has an interesting book, and I want to know a little bit about his experiences. It's a science fiction book, and it's called The Hellfire Effect.
Ooh.
And his name is William Rogers. And we want to welcome him to Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh, you have to
Oh,
unmute.
oh, 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 oh. I normally ask them to unmute, but I forgot to click the button. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wonderful, wonderful. Yes,
Sure.
good evening to you both.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, your book is interesting. It's called The Hellfire Effect.
I'm gonna apologize. I just wanted to
Okay,
invite. I wanted to welcome our next guest on the show, but I have to log off. But I'm gonna
right.
get back as soon as I can.
Okay. Yeah,
No,
Rhonda has
I
to log off.
understand schedules.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
yes.
Unfortunately.
Sometimes it happens. Yeah, come back if you can.
Okay.
Um, okay, so your book is called Hellfire Effect, and you have a copy behind you, but do you have one you can put? Oh, you have one right there. Okay, that Thou Shalt Not Kill, the Hellfire Effect, and it's science fiction, but a lot of people have, well, I won't say mistaken it, but they thought it had a religious uh, goal foundation rather than the sci-fi foundation. So it kind of, I guess, straddles the line between religious faith and science fiction. And what I wanted to know was that, were you trying to do that when you wrote the book, or has that been something surprising for
No,
you?
that it was actually intended because when the whole idea came about, I reference a lot in my background. I have a technical background in engineering,
Okay,
and I'm a devout Christian.
okay,
And so I wanted to kind of produce this book by utilizing those experiences and values that I have, and to see if I could do it in a kind of a creative manner. So this it's a fiction, so
okay. It's a
which gave
novel.
me, yeah, which gave me a broad spectrum of things that I can pull from without having to, cite a lot of references and things of that sort. But it was intentional for this book and this story to feature both the scientific and as well as the religious connotations in it, because I want it to be kind of a thought-provoking read. And I'm
Okay,
happy to say that everyone who has responded, gave me feedback. They were so in, engulfed in the book that they keep asking me, when's the next one coming? When's the next one coming?
okay. So are they thinking it's like the Left Behind series or one of those uh, series like that, or maybe something like by, is it Dan Brown that did the books about that had a religious connection to them, but they were fictional, they were novels, they were mysteries. Um, I think it was Dan Brown. But anyway, some people think that there's a conflict between science, and since you're an engineer by profession, then some people think that there's a conflict between science and faith or religion. They think the two are conflicting or the opposite of each other. And so, as an engineer that is a strong Christian, what do you say with regard to that?
Well, what I say is there is truth that we as civilization and humans are dealing with, and I think a lot of us base a lot on science, prove it. You got to make sure that it's factual. And when you start to consider religion, there is religion in science. There is science in religion. You just have to be able to study the resources, the Bible being one, to learn about what our history has taught us and is teaching us, and is referenced in the Bible, is that both of those frames of understanding exist. And that's what I intended to put in this book, is for you to think about what's the origin of the hellfire effect. And that's kind of the challenge for my readers, is to figure out, is this something that science has produced, or is this something that God has produced, so to speak? So
Okay.
I'm really interested in when people do read it and they share with me what they're thinking. It really conveys to me that I was able to hit the mark in the way the story was organized, and the activities that was taking place in each one of the chapters, because each one of the chapters kind of like an episode. And when they read through that, they're forming their own opinion about what's causing the hellfire effect. But
Okay.
like I said, when they get to the end, it's like one of them, like in the Marvel movies and stuff. It's like, man, I gotta wait till the next one to find out what's gonna happen.
Okay. And
Hopefully, I answered that question.
you did. And science, the thing about science is not doesn't occur in a vacuum, and it's not final, because scientific facts change. Even though
Right.
they might be factual as with the information that we have right now, but then more information that comes out a decade later, then the facts change.
They
So
can.
um I see the Bible more as wisdom that's universal and everlasting. Every generation, that wisdom stays the same.
Yeah.
It's like human behavior really doesn't change. What changes is technology. But as technology changes, humans, a lot of times we stop using some of our gifts, our innate
Mm-hmm.
skills, and we get lazy. And you know, like with math, mental math, with calculators everywhere, people stop using that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't use it, you lose it. It's kind of, sometimes it gets weaker and weaker. So tell us about the plot for the Hellfire Effect. What's your main? How does it start? And don't give us any spoilers, because you want
Yeah.
people to
Yeah.
read it
That.
and find out. But what is it about?
Okay. What it is, and let me tell a little bit about how the whole story concept came about.
Okay.
Um, Everyone is aware of what our society has been dealing with over the course of a number of years, and it seems more um, recent now in the past couple of decades, is when it comes to mass shootings and the debate about gun control. And when something tragic happens, gun control is usually the first thing that the news starts to delve into, and people start debating, and for it and against it, and then the next thing you know, another shooting has occurred, and so it just continues to repeat itself. And so a couple of years ago, when one of the reports came out of another one, I just started to think, what would be a different option? What could happen that could kind of curtail or mitigate the whole um, response of people that are so quick to pull out a gun and shoot and kill someone? What type of situation, or what type of circumstance must happen And I'm sincere and honest when I said this. I think God placed the whole concept in my mind. I want you to write this story. And
Okay.
things started to formalize as I thought more about it. And I was getting images in my mind and how this story could play out. So basically, um, the hellfire effect is just what the title entails. It's an effect. And what happens is when you have the character within the book, there is a criminal element. And the person who commits murder within a uh, certain amount of time, they experience this physiological pain that's devastating to them, and it's excruciating. And the only way that they can make it stop is to kill themselves. That's the only way. So it was coined that by, and I'll share this as one of the story characters referenced it as the hell. It was like hellfire, and
Okay.
the reporter that was investigating it um, wrote that in the headlines: hellfire effect. People are reporting. This is kind of the experience that when someone commits murder, they they their life has succumbed within hours of committing that
Oh,
work and that murder. And the thing about it is no one is immune to it. And
okay.
so that's kind of the plot is for the readers, based on the characters that's in it, to try to figure out what's causing this, what's causing the hellfire effect.
Okay. Well, you've given my mind is right, going in circles as you are talking about some of the things that you mentioned. One of them is the just the concept of the mass shootings. Um, and people will say a person has mental issues or they need, did the people around them see it coming? You know, were there any signs that people missed? And it's a fairly new phenomenon because people used to settle their disputes with fists. They would just
Hmm.
have a fight. Men, women really didn't do a lot of fighting. I will confess, I've never been in a fight in my life.
Lucky
I
you.
yeah, well, I was a small person growing up, and if I got bullied, some bigger person would always step in and defend me.
Mhm.
So I never had to fight. So praise the Lord, because I wouldn't
Yes,
have I wouldn't have won. Because I'm just this is not who I am. But people used to just settle their disputes that way.
right.
Um, and now I feel like the internet has a lot to do with it, the
Hmm.
social media, because young people, they don't understand the ramifications sometimes of their actions. They're looking for to go viral with some kind of infamy. And I don't think they really realize the the ramification. And the hellfire effect is one of those ramifications because you can't do something like that. You can't take a whole bunch of lives or one life, but a whole bunch of lives at one time, especially children, and think you're not going to be consumed with, you know,
Something.
guilt or, get the death penalty if you're one of the states that give it. Um, that you really are going to be able to sleep, you
Hmm.
know, taking those kind of lives and then you can lie down and have a restful sleep. I don't think so. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
yeah, yeah. And it's, even in the story, the origin of the story, um, I do account for those who may be there may be a mental um, origin for the tragedy that happens, or something accidental, it's referencing it to basically they won't experience the hellfire effect, but it's something else that causes.
Oh, okay, okay. And you know, some people they say the person maybe they didn't get enough hugs as a kid. You know, some children aren't loved, like,
Mhm.
and that affects people forever. If
It
you
does.
don't get that kind of nurturing love, you know, that I experienced, you know, it's some children get no love. I mean, you know, their mothers are basically either MIA
Mhm.
or you know, brutal. It's not everybody, it's probably a small percentage, but I bet if you look at people who end up in jail for violent crimes, that's going to be a common
Oh,
denominator,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
And
because some things are
that is so
human.
true.
You know, there's some things humans need,
Hmm.
and that's one of them.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I'll just kind of touch on this is my second book, second published book. Uh,
Okay.
the first one was called Daddy Said, and
Okay.
that one is where I um, captured all my um, experiences as a father, you know, and shared that with those who may not have had a positive male role model in their life. I talk about things, you know, like credit card, you know, getting your credit card, going to school, relationships, getting a job, things that a kind of a daddy figure would tell someone, you know, here are the things you need to consider. And and it's because of kind of what you just said, because there were so many young people who didn't have that type of support, foundational support in their life. And I just wanted to do something. And so I just wrote it down and put it in a book.
Hmm. Well, you know, that's true. Now, you on your new book, you say it's an asteroid. It starts with an
Yeah.
asteroid
Hmm.
hitting in a major city, or tell us about that.
Yeah, but not so much the asteroid, but fragments from the asteroid.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was fragments from the asteroid. And and that's in the first part of the opening chapter of the book is NASA. I used to work for NASA. So
Oh, okay.
was
We've had some other NASA people come on the show before.
yeah, okay, I probably
Mhm.
will.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
If they was from my area here in Hampton, there's a chance I
oh,
might
and
might have known.
that that's something that I wanted to mention to you. I saw that. I wrote it down, but I hadn't mentioned it yet. I'm from Newport News.
Where are you?
Yes. I've been
Okay.
in Texas a long time. I've been in Houston a long time. But I grew up in Newport News. My father was a pastor of Zion Baptist Church. My brother was a pastor too. He passed away. Well, but they both passed now. But I grew up as a PK, and my dad, um, he was very well known, but he was a leader and he was a visionary and he was a workaholic.
Yeah.
So he worked all the time. We didn't see him that much. We saw him at dinner mostly and in church. But my dad had some real nuggets of wisdom that he passed to us all. So
Well,
we learned a lot. One was studying. My dad studied the Bible. He
uh-huh.
did not rely on emotion. He did hoop, you know, that's what they called it.
Uh,
But he studied the Bible regularly from my earliest memory as a child. Even
mhm.
when we had a small home, he studied the Bible. But I went
I
to
knew
work.
Reverend Day. I knew
You
Reverend
knew
Day.
Reverend Day? You did? You knew my
That's why I'm
dad?
laughing.
You know my brother?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Wow.
Which
What
we're gonna have to talk offline.
we are. We are. Okay. Are you from Hampton?
I am. I am.
Oh, okay.
My church is actually 10 blocks north of Zion Baptist.
Okay, what church is it? I just want to
First
know.
Baptist Church East End.
Oh, good grief. Okay, I know all about that. Wow, wow, it's a small world. This
Small world.
Yeah, I don't you didn't know that about me, but I did
No.
see Hampton and a lot of people, you know, come and go because of the military. So sometimes people move there because of that.
Right.
My We moved there because my dad was called to Zion. We were in North
Yes.
Carolina before. But okay,
Yeah.
so you know my dad. Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I
Yeah.
grew up in the church and it was our lives. And my dad,
Yes.
he studied.
Yeah.
He
My
taught us.
three daughters went there when they was in preschool.
Oh, okay. My mom ran the daycare.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
so it is truly a small world. Okay, see, I did not know this about him before the show. So I didn't know he was from my hometown. I knew he lived there, but I didn't know that he would know my
These
family and all
connections.
of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. So the Daddy Says book that you have, do you have a copy of that so you could handy so you
Yeah,
can
that
show the
was this
cover
right
of
here.
that one? Okay. Yeah. You know, I think, and I'm hoping this will change in the future, but the importance of dads is not emphasized enough.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of it is the way society's changed, and it's a lot of single mothers. And people, if you say dads are very important, they take it as a personal attack or personal affront that you're saying is something wrong with single mothers. No, that's not
Mm-mm.
what people are saying. But it's, there's a reason God required two people of opposite sexes to create life
Hmm.
because it takes that to raise life, really, to have the balance. It's about
Yes,
balance.
it definitely is. It is
Yeah.
definitely about that.
Because
And
you
and
get different things from your mom than you get from your dad,
that's you sure do. You sure
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
And
But let me with the asteroid. I didn't finish that.
okay, okay,
Yeah. So what I had the United States NASA and then Soviet with Russia's aerospace programs working together because this asteroid was on a collision course to Earth.
okay.
And they had to work together to come up with a plan to deflect it. So they did effectively deflect it, but a couple of fragments from that asteroid hit Earth in two different locations. And I
So
will
it
say this,
actually did hit.
the two asteroids actually
Mhm.
hit,
Okay.
the way fragments, excuse me, of
The
the asteroid,
fragment. Hmm.
yeah, did actually hit. But the thing about them, they hit in two locations that had some religious connotations. So like
Oh,
near
okay.
Mount Sinai, one hit there and one
Okay.
hit in this town called Bethel. You know, Bethel was referenced in the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and it kind of stemmed from there. So that's where the whole o- kind of the origin of the hellfire effect began. It was in post study and research of that.
Okay. Now, people have been commenting because we've been featuring your book on our Facebook page,
Mhm.
and some of the comments are interesting. And people who read the book, their comments are going to be different from people who haven't read the book,
Mhm.
obviously. So, how long did it take you to write your book?
It actually took about um 8 months. It took me about 8 months
Okay.
to do
Okay.
that. And that's only because the latter part of that, I was going through a career transition and I used that time to really focus on it to finish it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, book writing is some books you can write them fast or slow. I have 15 books, but they're different. And so
Yeah,
they're all
it's
different.
very
Mhm.
it's not a part of my makeup. So that's why
Okay.
each one of them was a purpose for me to write it. And in my opinion, this is the ones I've written until that incentive comes up again.
Yeah, well, some people are inspired to write particular topics, and some people
Hmm.
just do it as a matter of course. That they're writers and they do it for a living. And so that, especially novelists, they'll come
Yes.
up with stories and then, they'll just push them out there. But all of my books are inspired by something that I feel strongly about.
Hmm.
So um, that's what I write from, a point of inspiration. And I
Yes.
have two in the can or the hopper that I don't know when they're going to come out, but I have two more. So, but all of them were from a point of inspiration. So it's interesting that you used to work for NASA, and I'm assuming you work for the NASA
The Langley,
in the
NASA Langley.
Langley.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we that was one of our school field
Mhm.
trips. Langley and NASA,
Mhm.
uh, and so it's interesting that you kind of combine the knowledge from that with your profession as a
Mhm.
that you were able to kind of put those two together
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a story.
Yeah. So it all kind of really fit together because my profession, even today, because now I'm with the Newport News shipbuilding,
Okay.
shipyard,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
organizational development. So I'm always working with the workforce and human behavior.
Okay.
So that really lend, my education to that really helped me lend in how to architect the characters that's in the story and the purpose that they provide and support in carrying out the mystery behind the origin of the Hellfire effect.
Okay. Now you said people ask you when is the next one? Are you
Yeah.
planning for this to be a series?
Yeah, well, this is, I'm gonna tell you, this is, and I'm really putting this out there. I really want this to become a movie. I'm
Okay.
really trying to, right now, awaiting to hear back from working with a script writer to
Okay.
help manifest this into a story. So that's really uh, my prayer is that it finds a path to coming to a theatrical release. And then, of course, other books can come after that because you got to have that to make the series to continue.
Yeah. Now, just the words of the wise. I haven't had a book turned into a film. I've researched it though, and I've talked to a lot of people in the industry. I know a lot of people who have.
Hmm.
And normally, what they're looking for is a way to do a series. And so it's helpful if you already have the series written, or at least a second one.
Oh yeah,
That's
it is
just what
good.
I've heard about from all people in the industry that do
Hmm.
the filmmaking, the producing, the script writers. I've talked to people in all of those professions, and that's what they tell me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and that's the feedback here because each chapter is a different episode.
okay, yeah,
So
but
there's like
it's if you need to
13.
have two seasons, you need to have more than one season.
Oh yeah, yeah, that
Mm.
yeah, that definitely is a plan. But I got to try to get some traction here first.
Well, I'm in agreement with you to reach your goals and whatever they are. I'm
Thank
just
you.
amazed that we're from the same place.
Listen.
Because even though it's bigger now, it's still small.
Hmm.
The Black community
Hmm.
is still is well. The people I knew growing up, it was very close knit, very tight
Yes.
knit.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's interesting. Well, I didn't know I was going to meet a homeboy tonight, and
There
so
you go. There you go. That's a great surprise for me too. Because I'm glad to put the face with the name.
well, see, Day is my maiden name, so you would
Hmm.
know from. And I don't use it. I've been married 32 years, so I used to use it when I first got married because I had a career. I had made some professional advances under my maiden name,
Hmm.
so I used it for about 10 years. Gwen Day Richardson, and then after that, I just went with Gwen Richardson.
Yeah,
So
because when you mentioned it with the previous author, Shonda, I wrote a note. I said, she's a day.
So you were listening to the first interview.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
That's funny. So anyway, show us a copy of your cover one more time because we're at the end of our
Sure
time.
thing.
And it's called The Hellfire Effect, Thou Shalt Not Kill. It's by William W.J. Rogers. And it's available online wherever books are sold. Get your copy.
That's correct.
Okay, well,
All right.
you have a great night.
All right, and you do the thing. Thank you so much.
Oh,
We'll
you're
be in
welcome.
touch.
Okay. All right. Good
All right.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.